Good morning, commuters. Welcome to another fine day in Southern California. Actually, not as fine as usual. As you can see, it's rather wet. Rained overnight, which makes it a pretty English morning, actually, and a good time to ride this Triumph Speed Triple R to work. I think it's going to be pretty good myself. I've always liked triples, and this is a good one. What makes it an R, you ask? Wow. These sweet carbon panels. This Olin's fork, little belly pan, and some red seat stitching. So it'll be a good time to test electronics. I don't know, it's actually a very pleasant morning, aside from the wet roads, so let's do it. I know that it's a small complaint, but why do I have to pull in the clutch when I start the bike? I've been riding motorcycles a really long time. If it's in neutral, just let it start. There's that triple growl. Listen to it. Yeah. All right, team. Okay, Speed Triple R taking on the day. Let's try to get the usual mumbo jumbo out of the way as soon as we can. It's an inline triple, of course. It is 1050 cc's, hence Speed Triple 1050. The bike's been around for a wicked long time. I think it's been around in one form or another since like 1995 or something. It's a very, very long-lasting model, and there's good reason for it because it's a pretty fun bike and resonates with a lot of people. Triumph made a bunch of updates for 2016. I will try to remember them all, but I probably won't, so take it easy on me. Whoa, Halloween much? Yeah, big old pirate ship, good stuff. So yeah, they changed the inside of the engine a little bit. Combustion chamber shape changed a little bit, some of the ports, maybe like a lighter piston and crank or something like that, just like little tiny tweaks inside. Nothing really changed. The bore and stroke's the same, displacement's the same, obviously. Compression ratio is basically the same, it's up a tiny little bit. The more interesting stuff that they changed, the gas tank is a half gallon smaller now at 4.1 gallons, which they were kind of quiet about. I didn't really hear anybody talking about that, so it's kind of an interesting thing to note that the tank is smaller. And the tank being smaller also sort of makes the bike feel a little bit smaller, or it allows Triumph to make the bike feel a little bit smaller, because the front of the seat where it connects to that gas tank right here is 20 millimeters narrower, which means it feels even sort of thinner and more compact than it did before. It's a big heavy bike. This bike was 483 pounds with a full tank of gas, as opposed to the last one we tested, which was about 18 months ago, which was 493 pounds with a full tank of gas. So 10 pounds lighter. Granted, 3 pounds of that was gasoline since the tank is smaller. Yeah, the bar is also a little bit taller and a little bit closer to the rider. So yeah, they just kind of shrunk the riding position a little bit. And it does feel very, very small, I have to say. It almost feels like it could be an 800 or something. Very compact, very pleasing. Another thing you probably noticed already is these bar end mirrors, which are pretty freaking sleek, I have to say. Bar end mirrors always seem kind of stupid to me because, I don't know, I never trust that they'll work right, but these ones are good. I like them. They work well at highway speeds. They work pretty well around town, and yeah, it makes the, I don't know, kind of makes the front of the Speed Triple extra low and mean looking. I like it. Sadly, can't really test the brakes all that comprehensively in this weather because pavement's wet, but the brakes on this bike are frickin' stunning. They're just big honkin' Brembos like you see on any number of Euro models, but They're really, really, really good. Super sharp, very progressive, very strong. So far, I've ridden this bike back to back with an FZ10 and with a Tuono 1100. The FZ10 does not have very good brakes, so not very hard to beat up on those brakes, but the Tuono has good brakes, got big Brembos also, but the speed triples are even better, which is kind of saying something. Overall speed triple is pretty comfortable. It's aggressive. There's not a lot of leg room. Seat to peg is kind of tight, but you know, it's like a whatever naked Street Fighter, right? You don't want it to be all too relaxed or anything. The seat will be kind of tall for shorter riders, but it's all pretty reasonable. And like I said, it's pretty compact. It's pretty narrow, especially right here, so it's easy to reach the ground. My coworker Ari complained about the seat. He said it didn't work very well for him. He thought it was kind of uncomfortable, but honestly it's worked fine for me. I've ridden this bike a bunch now, and yeah, not a lot of complaints. It seems to work just fine for me. Yeah, another motorcyclist wearing high vis. Good call, man, good call. Also got a gaggle of ride modes, which you can adjust here on the dash. So if you tap mode, you can see the little thingamajig changes: road, rain, sport, track. And if you put it in sport, say, and you pull in the clutch, it registers. You can do that with throttle off while you're rolling also. So there are different throttle modes for rain, road, sport, and then track has sport throttle mode. It also has a decreased level of rear ABS, so you can sort of back it in a little bit if that's your cup of tea, as they say. And then there's also rider mode, and all rider is a custom mode, so you can change the map and TC and ABS modes, and you can save them, so you can have like ABS turned all the way up, and then have TC turned off if you want to, which is kind of handy. But what you cannot do if you have custom modes set up where one of the safety features is turned off, you can't select rider mode while you're riding, because Triumph knows that the mode is turned off and they don't want you to be able to select a ride mode that has a safety feature turned all the way off while you're moving. So it's a little bit overbearing nanny, if you ask me. You know, if you're going to turn off ABS or TC while you're riding, then just, I mean, you know what you're doing, right? I mean, it's not going to happen by accident. You have to pull in the clutch and shut off the throttle, and as my coworker said, rub your stomach and tap your head and stand on one leg at the same time anyway. So it's got to be very deliberate. I guess it kind of reminds me of the whole, like, making me pull in the clutch to hit the starter button. Like, what I don't know who Triumph thinks their clientele are, but especially with basically a $15,000 naked bike, just let me be my own person, you know? Wet, congested freeway. Not super fun. This is where that big 1000cc triple is pretty fun though. When you want to merge and you just twist it and it lurches forward. The engine's really good at stuff like that. Low RPM, it's really smooth, and it just kind of fires the bike forward. It's great. What it does not do, I will say, especially riding it back to back with bikes like the Tuono 1100 and even the FZ10, is it doesn't have that real crackle in the mid-range and in the top part of the rev band. It just kind of lays down. It's got great torque. It's very even. Just that the engine's very gentlemanly, you know. it doesn't want to offend anybody. It's very strong. It's very smooth, but it doesn't have that thing that the I don't know, every other naked bike I can think of, actually. FZ10, Tuono, Super Duke, yeah, doesn't have that thing where when you get up in the rev band it kind of turns into this like maniac, you know, turns into Mr. Hyde and just goes rah, and freaks out, that's what I like. I like a naked bike to have that screaming top end rush. But if that's not your thing, then the Speed Trip will be just fine for you. It's a perfect gentleman. Weird seeing wet roads in California. Not used to this. In the middle of our 30-year drought or 40-year drought or however long it's supposed to be. Rain feels kind of good. I like it. Speed Triple comes with Pirelli Super Corsa SPs, stock from the factory, which are awesome tires. Not maybe so awesome for an off-ramp in the rain. Awesome enough to catch up to traffic though. But they are bitchin' tires. And it's cool that they come stock because that means you can go to a track day and drag your knee all day long on these tires and you will not be disappointed. Let's flex some of that torque again, shall we? That's wicked. Since the road's kind of slippery and I'm kind of curious about these tires, I'm gonna switch it to rider mode. I have TC turned off in rider mode. I have ABS on because I like ABS. Woohoo! Front wheel came up. I thought it was gonna spin, but it hoiked a little wheelie even on wet pavement. I just heaped a bunch of praise on the Triumph for everything fitting together properly, but that doesn't quite look right. Other than that, everything is beautiful, trust me. It really is finished well. It does have a lot of power. Actually, I don't even think I told you guys how much power it has. Holy cow. Sorry about that. 125. 125 at the rear wheel. And 75 foot-pounds of torque, I think. So good numbers, very good numbers. But when you consider that this bike is just under 15,000 bucks, I think it's 14,900, that starts to not sound like very much power, because for 14,600 you get a Tuono 1100 RR, granted with Sachs suspension, but still you get 155 horsepower and 80 foot-pounds of torque or something like that, and just as capable on a racetrack, if not more. One thing I have to be careful with is our parking lot, because it is so slippery in the wet. It's crazy. I don't know what the deal is with this coating that they put on it, but man, is it slick. I mean, it's fun to get all swazy, but man. Oh, man. Oh, boy. Too much fun. Okay, wrapping up the Speed Triple. What do we think? It's a pretty GD cool bike, man. Like I said, you can get bikes with more power. You can get bikes that are more comfortable, probably, but not much. I mean, thing sounds bitchin', does it not? I mean, single-sided swing arm, all these little bits of jewelry and nice little pieces. Rim stripes, how can you not like rim stripes? I don't know. It's a darn cool bike. And I think there are going to be a lot of happy owners with this one, even if it doesn't stomp the competition in any one category. Okay, guys, well, I'm going to go sit at my desk and write some stuff down. I hope you enjoyed this, and I don't know. See you next time, I guess.